The colony called Haven Reach stood on the edge of human space. It was not an old colony, but it was full of life, full of hope, and full of people who believed in tomorrow. For them, Haven Reach was not just a settlement, it was a promise. When the first settlers had arrived 10 years earlier, they had found a quiet world circling a bright sun. The planet had wide green plains, deep blue oceans, and skies that seemed endless. The soil was rich, and the weather was calm. To the settlers, it felt like Earth's younger sister, fresh and waiting for a new story to begin. The colony grew quickly. Children played in wide schoolyards under protective domes. Farmers raised crops on the plains, while engineers built energy towers and transport lines. Ships arrived from Earth every few months, bringing supplies, books, medicines, and sometimes new families who wanted to make Haven Reach their home. The settlement was named with care, because to all who lived there it truly was a haven at the far edge of the stars. Families felt safe. They had the protection of Earth's fleet, the technology of centuries, and the spirit of pioneers who believed nothing could harm them. No one imagined that in the dark between stars an old enemy was watching. Shadows beyond the sky far beyond Haven Reach, the Zerath dominion spread across worlds like a storm. They were not explorers, not builders. They were conquerors. Their empire was built on taking, not creating. They ruled by fear, crushing those who resisted. Many alien civilizations had fallen under their control. For years, Earth's fleets and the Zerath clashed at distant borders, but Haven Reach was never thought to be in danger. It was too small, too peaceful, too far. Or so they believed. The day of the attack began like any other. The colony's capital, New Dawn City, woke to the sound of morning bells. Farmers drove machines across the fields, children hurried to school, and ships prepared to launch from the orbital station. People carried on their lives with laughter, busy routines, and small dreams. Then the sky darkened. Sensors at the colony's defense station picked up movement, shapes emerging from faster-than-light travel. At first, officers thought it might be an Earth patrol or a merchant convoy. But within seconds, alarms rang. Dozens of warships appeared, sharp and angular, their hulls glowing with alien power. They did not broadcast signals of peace. They came with silence and fire. The Zerath Dominion had arrived. The first strike. The orbital station was the colony's first line of defense. Commander Ilara, who had served in Earth's fleet before retiring to Haven Reach, stood at the command deck. Her eyes went wide as the screens filled with hostile readings. "Raise shields. Send the emergency signal to Earth," she ordered. But the Zerath were already jamming communication. The signal broke into fragments filled with static before it could escape the system. On Earth, far away, only a few broken words would be heard. Attack. Haven Reach. Help. The Zerath wasted no time. Their warships opened fire, burning through the orbital station's shields. Human defense fighters scrambled to respond, brave pilots flying against impossible odds. They fought with skill, but the enemy fleet was vast, overwhelming, and merciless. Commander Ilara watched her screens as fighter after fighter went silent. She stood tall, refusing to show fear even as her station shuddered. In her heart she knew Haven Reach was alone. Panic on the surface down in New Dawn City. The sound of sirens filled the air. Families looked up and saw streaks of fire as the battle raged above. Teachers hurried children into shelters. Parents grabbed whatever they could carry, and the colony's emergency services tried to keep order. Governor Malik, leader of the colony, stood before the people. His voice carried across the comms network. "Stay calm, head to the shelters. We will hold as long as we can. Earth will not forget us." But even as he spoke, people could hear the thunder in the sky. Alien warships descended, targeting energy, towers, transport hubs, and defenses. Explosions shook the city. Buildings crumbled. Families huddled in underground shelters, whispering prayers and holding each other close. Some believed rescue would come in time. Others feared the truth, that no help would arrive soon enough. Acts of courage, even in the face of doom, The people of Haven Reach did not give up. Engineers rushed to keep the shield generators running. Doctors worked tirelessly in makeshift hospitals as the wounded were brought in. Pilots flew into the sky again and again, knowing they would not return just to buy another few minutes for those on the ground. One pilot, Lieutenant Sarah Holt, made her last transmission before her ship was destroyed. "Tell Earth, we fought, to the end. Tell them, don't forget us." Her words would later become part of the final message that reached Earth. The silence after hours passed. The colony's defenses fell one by one. The orbital station burned, breaking apart in the void. The last fighters were shot down. On the surface, fire consumed New Dawn City, its towers falling into ash. Governor Malik sent one last transmission to Earth, though he knew it might never be heard. "Haven Reach stands no more. We gave all we could. Remember us. Avenge us." Then the Zirath unleashed their final strike. Massive blasts from orbit tore across the planet, turning settlements into ruins and silencing millions of voices at once. When the smoke cleared, Haven Reach was gone. The fields, the homes, the laughter of children, all erased. A broken signal far away on Earth, deep in a communication center, technicians listened to the broken fragments of distress calls. Static filled their ears, but between the noise came words: "Boyan attack, Zirath, Haven Reach. Help us. They are here. We fight. Don't forget." And then nothing. Silence. Earth's leaders, soldiers, and citizens listened in shock. Grief filled their hearts, but grief soon hardened into something stronger. Haven Reach was lost, but humanity would not forget. Humanity had never been a people to bow down. The fall of the colony was not the end. It was the beginning. The news of Haven Reach's destruction spread like fire across Earth. From the tallest towers of New Tokyo to the crowded streets of New Delhi, people paused their work and stared at the screens. Faces filled with shock, grief, and anger reflected in every home. Families who had sent loved ones to the colony now clutched each other, praying that nothing like this would ever happen again. In the halls of the United Earth Council, the atmosphere was tense. Leaders from every continent gathered around a massive table, its surface glowing with holographic maps of the galaxy. The room hummed with quiet conversations, until all voices fell silent as the first recorded transmissions from Haven Reach were played, fragmented, broken, filled with static. But the horror was clear. Governor Helena Voss, chairwoman of the council, rose to speak. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were filled with fire. "We have lost Haven Reach," she said. "Not because we were weak, but because the Zirath Dominion strikes without warning. They believe humanity is soft. They believe we are afraid. They are wrong." A plan of retribution. Earth's military leaders stepped forward. Admiral Reyes, veteran of countless space conflicts, spoke with a tone both calm and terrifying. "Humanity cannot allow this to stand," he said. "We have weapons, we have fleets, but we must act with precision. This is not just about retaliation, it is about survival. We cannot let the Zirath think they can touch us without consequence." For years, secret plans had been prepared. Earth had always feared that if a colony was lost, humanity needed the power to respond decisively. These plans were code-named Project Retribution. It was a bold, unprecedented strategy. At the heart of it was a weapon unlike any other ever built. By humans, the Solar Lance Array. Scientists explained it in simple terms. It could focus unimaginable energy directly into a star, collapsing it entirely. Any planet, fleet, or station orbiting that sun would vanish in an instant. The Zirath Dominion's own systems could be erased without a single human life lost. In the act, it was terrifying, it was absolute, and humanity had built it for this exact moment. Scientists and soldiers unite Earth became a hive of preparation. Factories worked day and night, producing materials, weapons, and ships. Engineers designed intricate components for the Solar Lance Array. Scientists monitored the nearest star systems, calculating the energy required, the precision needed, and the timing of a strike. Every person contributed in some way. Pilots trained tirelessly, learning maneuvers that would give them an edge against the alien forces. Soldiers drilled for boarding actions and space combat. Civilians volunteered to manage logistics, communications, and supplies. Humanity poured everything into one goal: ensure that no Zirath would ever feel safe again. In the training halls, young recruits listened to stories of Haven Reach. They learned of Lieutenant Sarah Holt, of Commander Ilara, and of every man, woman, and child who had died. Each story was a spark, turning grief into determination. These recruits did not just fight for survival, they fought for vengeance, for justice, and for the right to live free from fear. A united front. For the first time in centuries, humanity's nations acted as one. Rivalries and disputes melted, away in the shadow of tragedy. Leaders who once debated endlessly now signed agreements within hours. The entire planet became a single force, united in purpose. Ambassadors even reached out to friendly alien civilizations in nearby systems. Many had suffered under the Zerath Dominion's expansion and were willing to share intelligence, maps, and small fleets. It was a fragile alliance, built on trust, born from shared fear. Still, every piece of information mattered. Every small contribution increased the odds of success. Earth's fleets, massive and gleaming, began to assemble in orbit around the planet. Every ship carried not just weapons, but hope. The pilots painted the names of fallen colonies on their hulls. Among them, the words Haven Reach were written boldly on the largest ships. The emotional weight of war. Even with careful planning, humanity's leaders knew the cost would be high. The Solar Lance Array was a weapon of last resort, but activating, it would require fleets to be in close proximity to the Zerath system. Any mistake could result in heavy losses. Yet no one hesitated. The memory of Haven Reach drove every action, every calculation, every preparation. Among the engineers building the weapon, Dr. Aaron Chen, one of the lead scientists, worked tirelessly. His hands were tired, his eyes strained, but his determination never wavered. He thought of the families in New Dawn City, of children who would never see a sunrise, and he whispered to himself, "We will make them pay, not with hatred, but with the full force of humanity. They will never touch another colony." Preparing the people across Earth, speeches and broadcasts reminded citizens of the stakes. Schools taught children about the bravery of Haven Reach. Citizens volunteered for emergency drills. Communities built shelters and trained for potential retaliation. Humanity knew the Zerath Dominion might strike again if they sensed weakness. Every human being became part of a single living shield for the planet. Even as military ships readied for departure, ordinary people contributed small acts of courage. Mechanics worked day and night repairing engines. Pilots' families sent letters and messages of hope. Every act, however small, became part of a larger story. Humanity was readying not just for war, but for a statement to the galaxy. If you strike humans, humans will strike back. The decision to move after weeks of preparation, Earth's leaders gathered for the final council. Holographic maps showed the Zerath Dominion's star systems, their fleets, and their supply lines. Every scenario had been analyzed. Every risk had been considered. Governor Helena Voss spoke with quiet authority. "We have waited too long to act. Haven Reach is gone, but their memory demands justice. Project Retribution is ready. Our fleets are assembled. Our weapon is operational. Tonight, humanity will send a message across the stars." Admiral Reyes stepped forward, the weight of responsibility visible in his stance. "The fleets will depart at dawn. Our target is the primary star system of the Zerath Dominion. This is not just revenge. This is a warning. Let every alien race know humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. Humanity endures." Dawn of departure, as the first light of morning touched Earth's cities. The planet hummed with life and anticipation. Families watched fleets launch into orbit, giant ships glowing as they passed through the atmosphere. Pilots and soldiers looked down at their home planet one last time, holding the memory of Haven Reach in their hearts. Across the world, people gathered to witness the fleets leave. They cheered, cried, and whispered prayers. Humanity had suffered loss, but it had also proven its strength. The memory of the fallen colony was no longer a wound. It was a beacon. The fleets moved in perfect formation, leaving the atmosphere and entering space. They carried not only weapons and technology, but the will of billions. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier knew what was at stake. This was no ordinary mission. This was the moment humanity showed the galaxy what it meant to defend itself, what it meant to remember, and what it meant to strike back. A message to the stars as the fleets moved toward the unknown. Dr. Aaron Chen, from the command station orbiting Earth, sent a final message through the communication channels. To the Zerath Dominion, Haven, Reach is gone. You will pay. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. We are coming, and with that, the Solar Lance Array began its final calibration. Humanity's greatest weapon was ready. The galaxy would soon witness the wrath of a people who refused to be defeated, who refused to be silenced, and who refused to let the memory of Haven Reach fade into darkness. The fleets of Earth moved through the void of space like a single massive organism. Billions of humans had watched their launch, cheering with hope and anger, knowing that every light moving through the darkness carried the memory of Haven Reach. On board, the pilots and crews of hundreds of ships felt the weight of the world pressing on their shoulders. This mission was more than a fight. It was the promise of justice, the proof that humanity would not bow before any enemy. Admiral Reyes commanded from the flagship Eternal Resolve, its hull gleaming under distant starlight. He moved from the command bridge to the observation deck, looking out at the countless vessels stretching into the black. Fighters, carriers, supply ships, and heavy dreadnoughts, all moving in precise formation. The scale of the operation was unprecedented. For the first time in human history, the entire species was united in a single purpose: the defense of its honor and memory. Allies among the stars, as the fleets crossed the outer systems, Earth's intelligence networks transmitted messages from distant civilizations. Small alien empires, once timid and fearful, had heard of Haven Reach and its fall. Many had suffered under the Zerath Dominion, and their leaders now approached Earth with offers of aid. Ambassador Lyra Keth, representing the Andari Collective, floated in a secure communication chamber aboard the Eternal Resolve. Her voice carried over the comms. We cannot stand against the Zerath alone, but with humans leading, we may yet survive. We offer scouts, fighters, and knowledge of their fleets. Human officers exchanged glances. This was unexpected but welcome. Even the smallest fleet could make the difference between success and disaster. Pilots of the Earth fleet listened to Lyra's voice and felt a new surge of confidence. For the first time, the galaxy seemed aligned with humanity. Engineer Captain Aaron Chen, the mind behind the Solar Lance Array, addressed the fleet in a calm, reassuring tone. Every part of the weapon is ready. Every calculation has been checked. When the time comes, it will work perfectly. But remember, the battle will not be simple. We rely on every ship, every crew member, and every human heart to see this mission through. The human spirit in action. The smaller fighter squadrons, Lieutenant Sarah Holt's name was remembered as more than a memory. She had become a symbol of courage and sacrifice. Young pilots painted her name on their ships, determined to honor her bravery. Squadron leader Tarek Volan rallied his fighters before the first skirmish near the Zerath border. "Remember why we fight," he said, his voice steady despite the nerves. Haven Reach. Every life lost there demands our courage. Every family that cried out for help deserves our victory. Today we march not just for survival, but for honor. The pilots responded with cheers and the roar of engines. They were ready. They were determined. And they would face any odds to ensure humanity's will was done. Into enemy space, as the fleet moved deeper into space, sensors detected signs of the Zerath Dominion's advanced scouts. They were not yet a large force, but they were enough to send a warning. Alien ships moved stealthily, trying to disrupt the human formation. Admiral Reyes watched the readings closely. "Keep formation," he ordered. "Do not engage unless necessary. We are here for one purpose, the star system. Still, skirmishes erupted. Small fighters clashed with Zerath scouts, weaving through asteroid belts and debris fields. Explosions lit the darkness like fireflies in a storm. Human pilots fought bravely, protecting supply ships and ensuring the fleet's advance remained uninterrupted. Among them, young Ensign Lila Marin distinguished herself. She guided her fighter through a dangerous asteroid cluster, outmaneuvering 2 enemy ships and saving a transport carrying vital components for the Solar Lance array. Her bravery earned applause from the bridge crew of the nearby destroyer. Every act of courage strengthened the resolve of all who served. The Zerath system approaches. Weeks of travel brought the fleet to the edge of the Zerath Dominion. Here, the star system that had fueled their empire for centuries shone brightly, a brilliant sun surrounded by planets, stations, and orbiting fleets. From afar, it seemed peaceful, but the humans knew better. The Zerath had built their power on control, on fear, on domination. This system was their heart. Destroy it, and the Zerath Dominion could no longer threaten humanity or other civilizations. Admiral Reyes convened a council on the flagship. Holograms of the star and its planets hovered above the table. "This is the system that must fall," he said. "Every calculation shows that if we succeed, we will end the Zerath Dominion's influence. But we must also be prepared. Their defenses are strong. Their fleets will respond." Commander Ilara, now recalled to active service, added, "The Solar Lance array must be assembled in orbit around the target. The fleets will cover its construction. Everyone knows the stakes. Failure is not an option. Moments of humanity." Despite the looming battle, the people aboard the fleet found moments to remember what they were fighting for. Families sent messages to their loved ones in the fleet. Pilots wrote letters to children. Engineers shared stories of Haven Reach's brave colonists, and soldiers sang old Earth songs to keep spirits high. Captain Aaron Chen walked through the corridors of the Eternal Resolve, quietly encouraging each team. "This weapon is more than science," he said softly. "It is our memory, our courage, and our will. Remember why we do this. Remember Haven Reach." In private quarters, young Ensign Marin stared at a hollow image of the colony's green plains and blue oceans. She whispered to herself, "We will not fail. They will not be forgotten." First contact sensors finally confirmed it. Zerath ships were massing near the system. The enemy fleet was larger than expected, but humanity's planning had accounted for it. Smaller allied fleets joined the humans, harrying enemy scouts and slowing their advance. Admiral Reyes gave the order, "Hold formation. Engage only to defend the array's assembly. Let them come. We are ready." Fighter squadrons leaped forward, striking enemy scouts before they could retreat. Battles erupted in orbit, explosions lighting up the darkness. Yet the human fleet moved like a single organism, coordinated and precise. Every ship, every pilot, and every crew member knew their role. They were not just soldiers. They were the avengers of a fallen colony. Assembling the Solar Lance. Meanwhile, in the orbit of the target star, engineers worked to assemble the Solar Lance array. Massive components floated in space, connected by teams of engineers using magnetic tethers and thrusters. Every piece had to be perfectly aligned, or the weapon could fail catastrophically. Commander Ilara oversaw the operation, her eyes scanning the holographic schematics. "We cannot allow mistakes," she said. "Every colonist, every family lost on Haven Reach. This is why we must succeed." The enemy fleet launched strikes against the construction zone, but human squadrons intercepted them. Explosions shook the void, and sparks of plasma drifted across the black. But the engineers continued their work, fearless in their determination. The march becomes a siege as the fleets advanced. The human and allied forces pushed the Zerath back. Systems once thought secure for the Dominion fell under pressure. Every engagement was a test of skill, courage, and coordination. Human ingenuity shone through. Clever tactics, daring maneuvers, and unyielding resolve made the difference. Even small acts mattered. Technician Solon Raya repaired a damaged fighter mid-flight, ensuring it could return to battle. Engineer teams diverted power to shields, keeping vital transports safe. Every human contributed to the story of this great march. The memory of Haven Reach was the heartbeat of the fleet, the invisible energy driving everyone forward. Every shot fired, every maneuver executed, every plan completed was a tribute to those who had fallen. A moment of calm after days of maneuvering and skirmishes, the fleet held at the edge of the Zerath system. The star blazed like a golden beacon, its planets orbiting in silent majesty. For a brief moment, the human crews paused to reflect on what they were about to do. Admiral Reyes addressed the fleet. "This is it. Soon, we will begin the final operation. Remember, we fight not out of hate but out of memory. We fight for the innocent, we fight for the future, and we fight together. Humanity endures. Humanity will prevail." The words echoed across the communications network. Silence followed, but it was a heavy, meaningful silence. Every person aboard every ship felt the weight of history pressing upon them. The march to war had reached its climax. Soon, the wrath of humanity would strike the heart of the Zerath Dominion. The fleets of Earth had reached the edge of the Zerath Dominion's primary star system. The golden sun at its center burned brightly, illuminating planets that orbited in silent majesty. From afar, the system seemed calm, almost peaceful. But humans knew better. The Zerath Dominion's power had grown here, concentrated in fleets, stations, and fortified worlds. This was their heart. Humanity had come not to negotiate, but to erase it. On board the flagship Eternal Resolve, Admiral Reyes reviewed the status reports from every fleet segment. Fighters, carriers, and heavy cruisers moved in perfect formation. Sensors showed the enemy massing near the outer planets. The Zerath had noticed the fleet's approach and were preparing to strike. But the humans were ready. Every ship, every soldier, every engineer had trained for this moment. "Prepare the Solar Lance array for assembly," Reyes ordered. "All defense teams, ready your positions. Today, humanity strikes back." First contact as the fleet entered the system, the Zerath launched their first wave of defense. Squadrons of alien fighters darted from the outer planets, swift and deadly. Massive cruisers moved to intercept human forces. Explosions lit the void like lightning in a storm. Human pilots, however, were calm and precise. Lieutenant Lila Marin led a squadron through asteroid fields, weaving past enemy fire to protect vital transports. Fighter after fighter engaged the enemy, buying time for engineers to work on the Solar Lance array. From the command deck, Commander Ilara watched the holographic displays. Every human ship performed its maneuvers with discipline and bravery. She spoke to her officers with quiet intensity. "Focus on protecting the array. Do not engage beyond your orders. Every life saved strengthens the mission. Haven Reach is watching us from memory. Do not fail them." Assembling the Solar Lance in orbit around the system's star, massive components of the Solar Lance floated like stars themselves. Engineers used magnetic tethers and thrusters to align each piece. With extreme precision, the weapon had been designed for this exact moment, to collapse a sun entirely, erasing planets, stations, and fleets in one decisive strike. Dr. Aaron Chen coordinated the assembly, his voice calm but firm. "Every calculation has been double-checked. The energy flow is stable. Once we activate, the star will respond exactly as we predict. Humanity will succeed." But the enemy did not wait. Zerath cruisers launched sudden attacks, firing energy beams that sliced through the black. Sparks and debris floated past the Solar Lance components, threatening to damage them. Engineers worked under fire, fearless in their determination. They tightened connections, recalibrated conduits, and held the weapon together with steady hands. Lieutenant Sarah Holt's memory became a rallying point. Pilots shouted her name as they flew into battle, dodging enemy fire and ensuring the engineers' safety. Every act of bravery, every maneuver was a tribute to those who had fallen at Haven Reach. The human fleet's precision human ships moved like clockwork. Dreadnoughts formed a protective wall around the construction zone. Interceptors and fighters darted ahead, striking enemy positions and preventing reinforcements from reaching the star. Supply ships moved behind, carrying fuel, ammunition, and critical components, Admiral Reyes observed from the bridge, his eyes scanning every sensor. "Do not underestimate them," he said to Commander Ilara. "The Zerath are desperate. They will throw everything at us. But humanity is ready. We are precise, relentless, and united." Even the smallest contributions mattered. Technician. Solon Raya repaired a damaged fighter mid-flight, returning it to combat. Engineers diverted power to failing shields, holding the line against massive energy blasts. Every human was part of a single story, a single purpose, a single heartbeat of vengeance and justice. The battle intensifies, hours passed, and the Zerath grew desperate. More cruisers and fighters emerged from the outer planets. Energy beams streaked across the void. Explosions shook the human ships and alarms rang in every control room. Yet humanity's fleet pressed forward, disciplined and fearless. Captain Aaron Chen supervised the Solar Lance Array's final assembly. Every piece was in place, every calculation confirmed. All that remained was activation, but the weapon would only work if the protective fleets held against the Zerath assault. Admiral Reyes gave the order to hold formation. "This is our moment. Protect the array at all costs. The enemy will break, and when they do, the galaxy will remember humanity's strength." Pilots, soldiers, and engineers took the command to heart. Every maneuver, every shot fired, every repair made was part of a larger tapestry of courage. Acts of heroism in one small sector, Ensign Lila Marin faced 3 enemy fighters alone. Her squadron had been scattered, but she refused to retreat. She dodged energy beams, weaved between asteroids, and struck back with precision. Each move saved a transport carrying vital components of the Solar Lance Array. When she finally returned to the fleet, her hands were shaking, but her spirit was unbroken. Elsewhere, heavy gunners on the dreadnought Iron Sentinel held off waves of Zerath cruisers. Their weapons roared, ripping through enemy shields. Each successful hit brought the human fleet one step closer to their ultimate goal. Even the engineers working in orbit, under constant threat of enemy attack, continued without fear. Every connection tightened, every beam aligned, every conduit calibrated. Humanity's hope and memory flowed through them as strongly as any weapon. The star responds. Finally, the Solar Lance Array was complete. Every module aligned perfectly. Dr. Aaron Chen double-checked the calibration, then spoke over the fleet comms. "The weapon is ready. Energy levels are stable. On my mark." Admiral Reyes's voice cut through. "All units, hold your positions. Protect the array. Humanity's wrath begins now." The activation sequence began. Energy flowed through the massive structure, converging into a single blinding beam aimed at the star. The star's surface began to tremble, rippling as the weapon's power penetrated its core. Zerath ships fired relentlessly, but human squadrons held the line. Explosions illuminated the void, yet the fleets moved with precision unwavering. Every soldier, every pilot, every engineer understood the importance of this moment. The collapse. The star flared brightly, then shuddered violently. Beams of energy spiraled outward, consuming the planets, stations, and enemy fleets in orbit. The Solar Lance Array pulsed, concentrating its power until the star itself could not contain it. "Brace for system-wide collapse," Dr. Chen shouted, though no one needed to be told. The force of the weapon radiated through space, a storm of destruction. From the command decks of the fleet, humans watched as the star's surface cracked and fractured. Energy surged outward, consuming everything that orbited it. Massive explosions lit the darkness. Fleets, stations, and planets vanished, erased in a single decisive act. Admiral Reyes watched silently, his eyes reflecting the blinding light. "Haven Reach, this is for you," he whispered. "Victory and reflection." When the light finally dimmed, silence filled the void. The primary star system of the Zerath Dominion no longer existed. Its worlds, fleets, and stations were gone, reduced to nothing. Humanity had struck with precision, with courage, and with remembrance. On board the fleet, crew members cheered quietly, tears in their eyes. They had avenged Haven Reach. They had shown the galaxy that humanity did not forget, did not forgive, and would not be subdued. Dr. Aaron Chen spoke softly to Admiral Reyes. "It is done. The weapon worked. The system, it's gone." Reyes nodded, a mixture of pride and sorrow on his face. "Yes, and the galaxy will remember the wrath of humanity. The aftermath, even as the fleet moved away from the destroyed system. They remained vigilant. Debris and fragments floated across space, a reminder of the scale of their victory. Allied forces cheered, and smaller civilizations sent messages of gratitude and awe. Humanity had shown strength, discipline, and courage unlike any seen before. The memory of Haven Reach remained at the heart of every human aboard every ship. They had fought not for conquest but for justice. They had fought to ensure that no other colony would suffer the same fate. And they had succeeded. Admiral Reyes addressed the fleet one last time before leaving the system. "Today, we have proven that humanity endures, that we fight with courage, that we remember. Haven Reach is avenged, the Zerath Dominion is broken, and the galaxy now knows the truth. If you strike at Earth, Earth will strike back with a force beyond imagination." The fleets moved forward, carrying the story of revenge, courage, and unity into the wider galaxy. Humanity's wrath had been delivered, but its spirit would continue to shine long after the battles were over. The human fleets drifted away from the remains of the Zerath star system. Where a brilliant sun and its planets had once existed, now there was only empty space, scattered debris, and silence. The Solar Lance Array had completed its mission. Humanity had struck decisively, erasing the core of the Zerath Dominion, and leaving the galaxy with a message that would be remembered forever. On board the flagship Eternal Resolve, Admiral Reyes walked through the command deck. The crew, though exhausted, was alive and filled with a sense of quiet triumph. Engineers cleaned panels scarred by battle. Pilots tuned their ships, checking systems and weapons, ensuring they were ready for any unexpected encounter. Though the war was far from over, the greatest blow to the Zerath had been delivered. Reyes paused at the observation window, looking at the dark void that had been a star system. In its place, only emptiness remained. He thought of Haven Reach and the countless lives lost there. The grief was still raw, but it had been transformed into pride in humanity's courage, ingenuity, and unity. Messages across the galaxy as the fleets returned to the outer regions of human-controlled space. Communications from nearby civilizations began to pour in. Messages of gratitude, awe, and cautious respect filled the channels. Ambassador Lyra Keth of the Andari Collective sent a direct message. Humans have shown what it means to protect life, to remember sacrifice, and to act with precision. The galaxy now sees Earth not just as a planet, but as a force that cannot be ignored. Other alien leaders echoed similar sentiments. Even those who had once doubted humanity's ability to wage war efficiently now understood the depth of human courage and determination. Humanity had not sought domination, but the story of their decisive action spread across star systems like wildfire. For the humans aboard the fleet, these messages offered a sense of validation. They had fought not for glory, but for justice, for memory, and for survival. Their actions had rewritten the rules of the galaxy. A time for reflection as the fleet slowed for a period of maintenance and resupply. The crews had time to reflect. Soldiers and pilots walked among each other, sharing stories of bravery and sacrifice. Lieutenant Lila Marin, still shaken from her battles, finally allowed herself to rest and think of Haven Reach. She whispered to herself, "We have done what we could. They are remembered. We will not let them be forgotten." Elsewhere, engineers discussed their work on the Solar Lance Array. Dr. Aaron Chen addressed them, his voice both proud and solemn. "You have done more than build a weapon. You have given humanity a chance to survive, to protect its people, and to show the galaxy that we will never bow to fear. Every connection you tightened, every calculation you checked, saved lives and ensured justice. Even ordinary crew members felt the weight of their contribution. They had faced danger, fought enemies, and survived against overwhelming odds. They understood that the loss of Haven Reach had sparked something within humanity that could never be extinguished. Remembering the fallen back on Earth, the people began the process of mourning and remembering. Every family who had lost someone at Haven Reach was given the honor of placing a memorial plaque. Public broadcasts showed images of the colony, its green fields, blue oceans, and bustling cities. Stories of individual bravery were shared widely. Lieutenant Sarah Holt, Governor Malik, Commander Ilara, and countless others. A grand monument was commissioned, its base engraved with the names of every colonist lost. The monument's central feature was a statue of a family reaching toward the stars, symbolizing hope, courage, and humanity's enduring spirit. Beneath it, the inscription read, "We remember, we endure, we strike back." People came from every corner of Earth to witness it. Some wept openly, some stood silently, their hearts filled with pride and sorrow. Yet every visitor understood the truth. Humanity's loss had not been in vain. It had forged unity, strength, and a message that echoed across the stars. Galaxies take notice. The news of humanity's action against the Zerath Dominion spread rapidly. Across the galaxy, civilizations began to treat humans differently. They were no longer just a young species on a small blue planet. They were a force to be respected, feared if necessary, and understood for their unwavering courage. Even distant, worlds that had once been conquered or intimidated by the Zerath looked to humanity as an example. Messages came from former vassals of the Dominion, offering alliances, intelligence, and cooperation. Humanity had not only avenged Haven Reach, but it also altered the balance of power in the galaxy. Admiral Reyes received reports of planets, once under Zerath control, now seeking protection agreements with Earth. It was a new chapter in galactic politics. Earth's reach had expanded not through conquest, but through respect earned from strength and courage. Lessons of humanity. The fleets returned to human-controlled space slowly, taking the time to honor their fallen comrades along the way. Ships that had survived the battle bore painted names of Haven Reach and individual heroes. Pilots and soldiers held small ceremonies in orbit, sharing moments of silence and remembrance. Dr. Aaron Chen reflected on the lessons learned. Humanity's power was not only in technology or weapons, but in unity, courage, and memory. The story of Haven Reach had reminded every human that life, hope, and justice were worth defending at all costs. Commander Ilara, speaking to a group of new recruits, said, "Never forget why we fight. Remember the people we lost. Remember their courage. Let it guide you, let it strengthen you. Humanity is strongest when we act together, when we protect life, and when we refuse to bow to fear." Moving forward, even as humanity celebrated its victory and mourned its loss, the work of rebuilding had begun. Earth invested in new colonies, better defenses, and stronger alliances. The Solar Lance Array remained operational, a warning to any who might threaten humanity. But the people of Earth also knew that strength alone was not enough. Courage, unity, and remembrance were equally vital. Communities on Earth honored the memory of Haven Reach with festivals, educational programs, and ceremonies. Children learned of the bravery of the colonists and the fleets, understanding that sacrifice and courage were integral parts of humanity's story. These lessons would shape generations, ensuring that humanity never forgot the cost of peace and the power of unity. A lasting legacy. Years later on Earth, Admiral Reyes stood before the memorial of Haven Reach. The sun set behind him, casting golden light across the faces of the fallen heroes. He placed his hand on the engraved statue and whispered, "They are remembered. Humanity endured, and the galaxy knows. We strike back when the innocent are harmed. Haven Reach lives in all of us. The people of Earth, the crews of the fleet, and the allies from distant civilizations carried that legacy into the future. Humanity had faced loss, answered with courage, and shown the universe that no force could break its spirit." The memory of Haven Reach became a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of hope, justice, and the unbreakable strength of humanity. Across the stars, humans and their allies rebuilt, strengthened, and remembered. They had erased a star system to protect their own, but more importantly, they had proven that humanity's heart, courage, and unity were greater than any weapon, greater than any empire, and stronger than any fear. Haven Reach was gone, but its spirit endured forever. And in the galaxy, every civilization would remember. Humanity is not to be underestimated. Humanity does not forget. And humanity always strikes back when injustice is done.